Hello, guys. Thank you for joining us. So, James, I finally did it. I finally went and saw Wicked. I am 2 months late. So for context, we were invited to the premiere.
Yes.
But I was away in Florida at the time. So James went, and what an activity that was.
Crazy. I had to react to it. I did like a little thing about the experience I had there because it was such a distinctive and memorable film watching experience. It was easily what I would consider the peak of the Wicked hype cycle in the largest auditorium I'd ever watched a film in. I got totally swept up in it. I acknowledged Wicked for not being my thing, but I sort of marveled at how they'd made this superhero film musical mashup. And I got so much from it, from being in that audience of people who loved it, and that really affected my opinion of it. And I stand by it. I think it was a really, really successful film from last year.
And check out James's review, because as someone who not only had not seen the film, has never seen the stage show, only vaguely knew 2 songs in it, hearing your review about it did really contextualize it, and I think really helped. So go check that out from before Christmas if you haven't already. So you're right. You saw it at the peak of the hype cycle as it happened, and then it became a global phenomenon. Multiple viral clips of Ariana and Cynthia in junkets going viral for holding space
hands,
and
holding
tears, nails,
emotionally
everything,
charged.
and it kind of barrels through. And now, when I go to see it, and the fact is, because it's a global phenomenon, it's run in cinemas for so long, it has enabled me to catch it 2 months later.
It's also now out. I think it's out on Prime. It came out like New Year's Eve.
To rent for £17.
That's a lot.
It was cheaper for us to go to the cinema. Adam and I looked at it. We were like, there are £5 tickets near me, so I went to do that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm catching it at the very end of it, which is quite an interesting difference, and not pros and cons to each one. So, Wicked, for those who don't know, obviously adapted from the stage musical, about the sort of prequel to The Wizard of Oz, about the Wicked Witch, how the Wicked Witch became the Wicked Witch of the West. And it's Elphaba, and it's also Galinda, it's Cynthia Erivo, who played Elphaba on stage, and Ariana Grande, global pop superstar, coming together. They kind of hate each other, but then they like each other, they're kind of friends, but then there's something else happening in Oz with all the animals. Oh no, I've heard of an ox and driven in pox, all that kind of stuff. And of course, they have to see the wizard played by Jeff Goldblum. If you've seen it, which you probably have, because most people on the planet have, except for me, you know the gist of it. Anyway, I've moved to a new area recently.
Part 1.
Part 1. They told you from the beginning it's part 1, which is, but I'm like,
that's the only time we were told.
Yeah, I'm like, are they now going to scrub that in the same way that Dead Reckoning Part 1, Mission Impossible, is not Dead Reckoning Part 1 anymore?
Yes, true.
Are they going to just
Wicked
do
Forever After or something?
Just wipe? They're just going to call it Wicked, and then the next one's going to be Wicked for Good.
For good, right.
Anyway, so I've recently moved to a new area. So this is my first time going to the new cinema near me.
Yeah, Multiplex,
Odeon.
Yeah.
And actually an improvement on my previous local Odeon.
Oh, great.
And Anna and I go there, and it was a huge auditorium.
Yeah.
And I would say probably only 30 people in there, but more than...
That's still quite a lot.
Yeah, still good for a film that's towards the end of its run.
Those people are watching it for the second and third time.
Honestly, no. There were some people who hadn't seen it, because Anna, afterwards in the loo, she heard all these people talking, and they were just like, oh my God.
Oh, fine, great, love it.
Very talkative bathroom, apparently. Anyway,
meanwhile, in the gents, you're just like,
all right, mate.
All right, mate.
So, like I said, wasn't familiar with the stage show at all, and kind of took myself in there, and I was kind of thinking, God, it's like 2 hours 40. And it was freezing in the cinema. I was like, oh, how am I going to expect this? Anyway, I sat down and I watched it. James, I saw Wicked.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. I loved it. Honestly.
It's great, isn't it?
I absolutely loved it. I had such a good time. Fantastic. And I agree with everything you said, and maybe more so. I mean, I thought it completely zipped by.
Yeah.
The best way I can describe it.
I felt the length, personally.
I'm wondering if that's because you would have had to have been at the premiere for about an hour and a half beforehand, you see. The best way I can describe Wicked to me, as an outsider watching it for the first time, is that I really felt from the moment it began, it looked me in the eyes, grabbed my hand and said, I've got a story to tell you. Come with me. And the sort of sweeping shots of the monkeys flying over the water, passing Dorothy, going down towards Oz and down towards Munchkin Land. I really was kind of really swept up in it. And I found it pacey. I never felt it was stagey or like, oh, this clearly feels like a musical bit. I really got a clear sense of the geography of Shiz University, actually. I was like, yeah, the cloisters are here. And then that breaks off and it's over there. And, so many things that I expected to love, I did, and more so. Cynthia Erivo is obviously fantastic, and she really nails it. And the live singing completely works. It's so charming. The biggest surprise and greatest thing I thought was Ariana Grande.
Yeah, she's great.
Who I thought just did not put a foot wrong the
She's
entire time.
multi-talented, Ariana
Incredible.
Grande. If you've seen her SNL sketches, she's so funny.
Yeah, what a performer.
Yeah.
I didn't realize her comic ability, her comic timing is fantastic. The bit where she pretends to sort of fall on the bed and goes, and then she sort of peeks over. Impeccable. It was
Very
like watching
charming.
someone
She's
who's
very
just
charming.
a completely charming presence. It was like watching someone who had done it for years. It was, I mean, and she has been a performer for years, but I meant in terms of acting, I was just really surprised by it. It did not put a beat wrong. And even when the camera's right up in her face, she's showing so much. She's this sort of angelic doll and is able to because Galinda in lesser hands could be a real annoying
Very
character.
well cast, I think.
Yeah, really well cast. Yeah. And she's got this fragility, this sort of doll-like presence that's sort of beautiful and beguiling, but also funny and also teasing. She just works so well. And her voice, I didn't realize how amazing her voice was. And I'm like, Ariana,
You don't listen
liberate
to as much
yourself
Ariana Grande as me.
from the music you've been making and like make things like this. And their chemistry is fantastic. And
and they're clearly really enjoying it and having so much fun in the role. You can tell they're so happy to be a part of it.
And actually, I would say that about the whole film. The whole film felt like it was made by people who love this story, who just want to tell it, who just want to perform it. And it was really swept up. And I agree with the sort of superhero analogy you were saying. When it gets to the end and she is flying on the broom.
It's like Superman.
And it is. And I was like, this is amazing. And I'm enjoying it. But if I loved this show, I'd be losing my head.
It's Avengers. It's musical theatre Avengers.
Incredible. And I was really swept up. And I couldn't believe that's only the first half of the story.
Yeah.
Because it's 2 hours 40, but I didn't feel like I really stretched it. I thought, oh my God, there's still so much to do.
Yeah.
I don't know where the story's going to go, by the way, which I love. And like I said, when I came out and I heard all those people saying that they absolutely loved it as well, and there was just a real great buzz in the cinema, even though the film's been out for 2 months. And I was so glad I caught it. And I really feel quite happy with that film and the way it left me, in the sense that if it won Best Picture at the Oscars, I'd be like, I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a film made with love, very well crafted. If it's not for everyone, that's fine. But as a piece of music, as a musical film, I think it's a great success.
Reflecting on it, I was like, that was an amazing cinema experience. And now I also think for people who love Wicked, that's an amazing film to pop on DVD or on your television at home and rewatch and enjoy, in the way that classics have always been like that. It'll become the definitive cinematic version of Wicked. Not that there's like another one from recent times. So I'm like, that I can see families and homes and kids going home to watch, returning to it, which I think is what... It's like that intangible quality that maketh a classic. You love to see it.
And it just gave me that wonderful cinema trip feeling. Anna and I put the music on straight away when we got in the car, when it was -2, by the way, outside. And it was like a real beaming moment. I just had a really nice feeling with it. I thought, and I can understand if people really want to nitpick and say...
Sirens on our end, sorry.
I really understand if people want to nitpick and say if some of the CGI design or something looks a bit like that, but I'm like, it's a fucking musical. It's a stage show.
You're in Oz. You're in a place
it's
with,
a fantasy land.
Fantasy roads and silly trees and flying things and talking animals. I'm like, well, how else did you want to do it?
Yeah, because I actually thought that when it got to like the creature design of the animals and everything up close was seamless, wonderful.
It doesn't need to look like Only God Forgives. It's wicked. Like let it be
wicked.
A little bit high key and colourful, and I don't need it to be. You're doing Oz, but Defying Gravity in particular, like that's the song that everyone's waiting for. We know we're coming for it, and when it happened, I was just like, good God, they nailed that moment. And she's falling down the tower, and she sees a version of herself in her reflection, grabs it and takes flight. And then I in my screening, everyone screamed.
Yeah, I bet.
It was like,
did they?
I was there, like just holding my popcorn, like just gripping on for dear life. But I was also beaming.
Yeah. Did they lose their minds when Idina Menzel and the other?
Everything.
Yeah, I bet. And I was like, that's like the superhero. That's the Blade walking in Deadpool and Wolverine moment.
Totally. But it was more so than any of those, because like the comic book fans, I'm not trying to like make divides and say it's like one audience in the other, but I've seen like the comic book fans. I feel like I've had so many of those earned moments to the point where we're actually like the character service is a little bit done to death.
Yeah.
Whereas like this was for the musical theatre audience, and they were getting their culmination of everything coming together.
I feel really happy that I've been able to kind of jump on the train in a good way
and that you
and
could
join
still
this,
have
and I can see it for what people really understand it, and I have no cynicism towards it. I have no I'm not patronising about it at all. I love it, and I thought it was really great, and I really look forward to seeing part 2.
Yeah.
I feel really like I've been given a genuinely fun cinema experience, and for that reason, in a kind of strange year with kind of the films that kind of been pushed for awards, if that took away the big prize, I'd be like, yeah, happily, because that's clearly
kind of the event of the year.
It was the kind of event of the year, and it's very good.
Yeah,
there you go. I loved it, guys. I absolutely loved it.
You probably loved it. I think you loved it more than me because I'm like it felt long, and you know, some of it felt a bit drawn out, and I was like 2 hours and 40 minutes for half of a story. You know, I've no problem with going to watch part 2. I'm a bit like, if I was to be super critical, I'd shave something down. But maybe it's also because you'd already reviewed it. The pressure was off of me to have to cover it officially. So I'm trying to probably view it through like where would it fall short here versus just pure experience.
And your experience was so unique.
And so not tainted, but like observed through this manic energy.
Whereas I saw it in a kind of standard, in a great way, a classic cinema trip. Anna and I got some minstrels.
Love it.
Got some mint arrow things. Yeah. Sat in row C in the middle. No one around us. Everyone's behind us. Yeah. Dotted around. Very well behaved audience. Yeah. And it kind of towered over and washed over. And I honestly, when it began as well, I was just like, this is hitting me in the perfect spot. It is. And also, it's January and it's been really cold here and miserable and dark.
Uplifting.
And it's so uplifting and so colourful. Yeah. Great.
And you know what's also about my experience is that I was in like a huge, the Royal Festival Hall auditorium, and I was far back, so that screen is small, and so much of my perspective is the crowd watching Wicked, which has obviously really framed my perspective of it. But as always, guys, go and watch Wicked if you want. It's available for like a lot of money to watch at home. They did quite well by having that available for like Christmas, New Year's for people if they wanted to watch it.
Good for it, and also a resounding triumph for musicals in cinema.
Yes,
a year ago everyone was like, "Oh, have you seen that the Mean Girls musical hasn't been advertised as a musical?" And do people even want musicals? And Joker 2 didn't. This puts that to bed.
Yes, yeah,
it's really good, guys. Wicked's amazing. I loved it, and obviously. Yeah, I'm sure you guys did too. We'll be covering Wicked for good later in the year when it comes out.
Guys, thank you so much for listening to this extra conversation on George's views on Wicked. Don't forget, you can check out our full episode 163 where we talked about... Oh my God.
Baby Girl.
Baby Girl.
And My Old Ass. And also the A Real Pain. It spoke to Jesse Eisenberg and Kieran Culkin.
So look out for that if you haven't seen it already. But we will see you next week for more Pop Kitchen fun, talking about The Brutalist and The Complete Unknown. We will see you guys very soon. Thank you, as always, to our producers, Dave, Finn, and Aidan. We couldn't do it without you. Make sure you check out our Patreon if you want to listen to Double Take and enjoy all of this stuff ad-free. I think that's all we have to say.
Adios.
See you next week. Bye-bye.